Hey guys, coldbrew here. Welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. We are on the test server today with Tatura Roundhide. The fusion that we're going to have for Christmas, it seems that it's going to be this one, nothing else. It's going to be a normal fusion. From what I understand, we're going to have 4 rares, which I understand will be needed for each of the epics. We'll have a look at the rares first, and then the epics to conclude if any of them are worth keeping over this legendary, of course, like we always do with these kind of fusions. So let's get this started. Of course, Tatura Roundhide, I've went over this champion skills before, so I don't need to go over them again. There's a couple of more legendaries added to the game, but I'll go over them in a separate video plus a showcase. So let's go over the actual epics needed for Tatura. We've got 4 epics, and I've tried to find them out because they gave us the epics, but I did not equip them or anything. The first one is banlord in the Lizardman defense epic. So let's have a look at the skills. Patient Tactician, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 30% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn if the target is under a decreased speed debuff. That's solid. In terms of provoking, the chance goes all the way to 50%, which is very solid actually for a tank kind of like champion, defense based. So it's very good to have a provoke that it's consistent like that. Defend the nest, that's the A2, places a 50% ally protection buff on an ally for 2 turns. Then a block debuff buff on that ally for 1 turn. This looks like it actually looks good for the Hydra, I want to say. From what it seems so far, with how Hydra applies that fear. Well, the Torment Head at least. Anyway, let's go on. Also places a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. Alright, okay, that's great. Also plays a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns equal to 20%. That's a solid buff. Max HP, defensive based, ally protection on 1. It's kind of weak, but it's more situational rather than okay, you're gonna use this one for the for in general protecting your team. Attacks all enemies. 40% chance to place a stun debuff for 1 turn. That's very good. 50% chance to stun when booked. The chance increased to 75% against enemies under decreased speed debuffs. Alright, that's very solid. So 85% chance to stun when there's also a decreased speed on there. Very solid. And then let's go over the passive. Whenever this champion is attacked or whenever allies under ally protection buffs are attacked, has a 30% chance of placing 30% decreased speed debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. That's very solid because it doesn't have to be his own ally protection. So the 30% decreased speed is a very strong debuff, by the way, when it actually can't affect the speed of the enemy. And I'm gonna say that for bosses, not for the clan boss, but I mean the Hydra bosses definitely are affected by the decreased speed debuff, so that's great. Very solid passive there. I want to say this is a solid epic overall, but I wouldn't say that he can actually replace the fusion because the fusion is also a very good support. Increase ally defense in all battles by 25%. This is very solid in general because this works everywhere. So it's not you know, Doom Tower specific, it's not dungeon specific, it's not arena specific, it's everywhere. So that's very good. That's very high actually, 25%. Let's go over the other epics right here, and the next one is this one, Togi. I don't know if I pronounced it right. So Shadowkin epic attack based champion. Sai assassin attacks one enemy 2 times, has an additional 20% chance of inflicting a critical hit if this champion is under a veil or a perfect veil. I don't like the conditional veil or perfect veil. It's not easy to do to get this one, but maybe this hero has it. Silent parting, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit will ignore 20% of the target's defense. That's solid actually. Has a 20% chance of inflicting a critical hit if this champion is under a veil or perfect veil. Okay, so that's the theme of this hero, I guess. Veil or perfect veil. There it is. Places a perfect veil buff and a 30% increased speed buff on this champion for 2 turns. Then fills this champion's turn meter by 40%. That's huge on a 3-turn cooldown. It doesn't give this hero though an extra turn, so that's what I don't like. It's just the feel of the turn meter by 40%, which isn't that great because you're basically losing a turn for this one. It's a good example to give Cadraphon, which has a very similar thing with perfect veil himself, which is not a good thing because he basically loses a turn regardless of however many advantages he gets out of that perfect veil. Catraphon specifically, this one as well, same thing. This one gets advantages with perfect veil. Whenever this champion is attacked, completely blocks one hit, decreasing the incoming damage to 0. Then counterattacks with the default skill. Okay, this one, 2-turn cooldown. This is insane, actually. Whenever this champion is attacked, completely blocks one hit. Wow. This one can actually become unkillable on its own. If you have a 2-to-1 ratio kind of built with this hero, so it takes 2 turns before the boss takes 1, then the passive will refresh, right? Alright, when attacked by a boss, decreases the incoming damage by 50% instead before counter-attacking. Wow, I answered myself with this one, so it's not actually effective for the boss. I mean, they understood that this would have caused some issues, but 50% reduction to damage is still very, very good. Even though it has a 2-turn cooldown, it still means that you can use this hero for the clan boss and not have to worry so much about those defensive stats. You can go heavy on attack, and just because of this passive, you'll actually be getting a lot of damage reduction. So 50% out of this one, and then when you apply Perfect Veil, if you have a consistent way, that's another good way to reduce incoming damage. I think Perfect Veil gives you 15% reduction, so that's very good. But overall, it doesn't provide anything other than just strict single target damage, which I don't like. In the sense of all the other areas of the game. Maybe clan boss, maybe some specific bosses like the Fire Knight, maybe, because this is a double hitting A1 and A2. But overall, nothing too exciting. I'm not too crazy about this epic for the time being. So definitely worthy of a sacrifice. Then we got 2 more epics to go. This one's called Visionary. Looks pretty good for a Dark Elf epic support hero. Let's go over the A1. Ectoplasm. Attacks one enemy. 30% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. Solid. The chance increases to 100% if the target is under a decreased critical rate and a decreased critical damage debuff. Okay, so almost does what an Armiger does, but the Armiger doesn't have this condition, and Armiger does double the reduction. Yeah, it's an okay A1. Let's go over the A2. Attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing a decrease. Oh, there it is. Critical rate or decreased critical damage debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. There it is. Goes to 100%. 3-turn cooldown when booked. Nothing too crazy about this one. Obviously, this is okay in some situations. I don't want to say that it's frequently used though. The decreased critical rate and decreased critical damage debuff are not used over other debuffs that often, just because of, okay, you're gonna drop the critical rate of the enemies to what, 70% if it's arena. That does nothing pretty much, because it's still 70% chance, a very good chance for them to crit you. And dark dealings, place a 30% critical rate buff and a 30% critical damage buff on all allies for 2 turns. Also fills the turn meters of all allies by 15%. Okay, this one I like. This one can actually be a very good one for beginner accounts. This epic looks promising for beginner accounts just because of this one. Increased critical rate buff, increased critical damage buff, plus turn meter feel, plus a leader aura for dungeons. For speed, very solid in terms of support. I would use this hero not for the lead obviously in the arena, but that boost in arena, let's say you've got high Katoon in the 30 days login, you get this epic as well. Insane amount of boosting. You can make a very solid arena team with this hero. Very happy about this one. I would say definitely try to get this one. If you cannot go for the fusion, go for Visionary. It's one of the best ones, at least for a beginner account. I'm talking first 30, 60, 90 days of your account. If you're struggling with arena, she's gonna help a ton. I would say just because of this extra passive, have high Katoon go first, speed boost, go into Visionary, speed boost again, increase critical rate, increase critical damage, defense down, and then a nuke. That should give you good results in arena. I'm gonna say I like this hero. So 1 out of 3 for now. And let's go over the final epic, and it's gonna be Masamoto. Another Shadowkin. We're getting a ton of Shadowkin epics. I like that because the Shadowkin faction will be coming next year. So defense epic this time. Dual slice, attacks one enemy 2 times, 10% chance of stealing 1 random buff. Wow, goes to 30% chance, but still quite low to be honest. And then Steel Typhoon, attacks all enemies, 50% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack, debuff for 2 turns. I like this 75% chance when booked though. 3 turn cooldown, very solid. I would say he's gonna be solid for the faction wars too, so also worth considering. And then Yojimbo, if I pronounce it right, 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns. Also feels the Terminator of all allies by 15%. Very solid in terms of both speed boosting and defense boosting. Very long cooldown though, 4 turns. But overall, I would say a solid support. I don't know about the damage potential of this guy, but overall, very, very solid as an epic. I would say that the best one, of course, is going to be the other one that we just went through, Visionary, compared to all the other 4. If you can get her twice, so 1 for the fusion and 1 for yourself, I would say go for it. And then let's go over the rares to close off the video. We're going to have 4 rares added into the game. The idea is that the 4 rares will be used 4 times each to make each respective epic, to my understanding at least. We don't have the exact details out yet. So Ordinator is the first one. Look at this guy. He looks like an orc for some reason, but the, you know, the pointy ears, yeah, the face looks like an orc, but they made him a dark elf. Anyway, weighty punishment, attacks one enemy, 25% chance to freeze. Alright, attacks all enemies, 50% chance of placing a bomb debuff that detonates after 2 turns. Bombs are very solid, but they all depend on your attack, so you need to have very high attack. And it's also a chance to apply it, so I'm not liking that part. So 80% chance. And then his passive, when attacked, 30% chance to decrease all bomb debuff detonation countdowns on the attacker by 1 turn. That's actually very solid, but because he doesn't apply them that often, 3 turn cooldown on an 80% chance when booked, it's not gonna be like he's gonna be an amazing new bomb champion added. I do like the passive though. It's only a 30% chance. Again, nothing too crazy. Let's go over to the next one, and it's gonna be this guy. How do I say this? Itinerant. Shadowkill looks cool though. I wonder if I can see his face. I can't. So attack base Shadowkin this time, and soul tap the A1 leech on a 30% chance, 50% chance if the attack is critical. Very solid to have a leech. I would say he's solid already. Attacks all enemies, 50% chance of placing a 15% decrease speed. Also places 15% increased speed buff on this champion for 2 turns if the attack is critical. It's okay. Waste away attacks one enemy, decreases the enemy's max HP by 30% of the damage inflicted if the attack is critical. Solid overall. I wonder what kind of multiplayer this A2 has. Other than that, yeah, they're sacrificable so far. These two rares. Misericord, banlord. She looks cool. Look at that hair. I like the hair. So pity, slaying, attacks one enemy 2 times. Decrease speed debuff, 15% chance, goes to all the way to 25% chance. That's okay. Stay vigilant, attacks all enemies. Fuels this champion's Terminator by 5% for each leaving enemy. That's alright. I mean, 4 enemies, 5 enemies against you, that's 25% fill. That's not that great. Or game-breaking bitter tears. Places a counterattack buff and a 25% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns. The counterattack buff is great sometimes, but it's not that it's going to do anything. You're going to counter and do the decreased speed. Nothing too crazy about Misericord. Not even for the banlord faction, I would say use, Commander here is even better for the banlords. And Castigator, the final rare, Castigate with the A1. Looks very solid. Looks like the Iron Mask. But it's a Sacred Order. Yeah, looks cool. Overall, I always like the designs. They put some time in them. Castigate attacks one enemy, 25% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. Goes to 40% chance for provoke. Holy Equity, 4 turn cooldown when booked. Heals the ally with the lowest HP by 20% of this champion's max HP. Then equalizes the HP levels of all allies and grants this champion an extra turn. This is actually very good. Overall, the best of the rares. So 3 turn cooldown basically, because he gets that extra turn. He heals, he equalizes. Not only he heals, he also equalizes. So if you're not at 100% with everyone, it's still gonna be good because of the heal and then the equalize. So let's say somebody's at 75%, 80% of their health, he heals them because they're at the lowest health, and then he equalizes everyone. So if they're at 90%, they'll go to 100%. I mean, you get it, you get the idea. And rebuff passive receives 15% less damage from enemies under provoke. That's okay, nothing too crazy. He does a provoke on the A1. Overall, I'm gonna say out of all the epics and rares, no one is really irreplaceable like we had Magnar as an example, guys. But I'm gonna say that Visionary is one of the best ones for early accounts, arena worthy hero to consider over the legendary. So remember, the legendary is this one right here. I'm not gonna go over the skills. We can see the cooldowns for Tatura Rhymehide, I guess, but overall I would say that this hero is good for mid to late game progression compared to what Visionary is going to give you, which is beginner to mid game progression for the arena until you get something better. But that increased critical rate, increased critical damage plus speed boost, very, very solid. While this one is more of a protective defensive legendary, as you can see, 4 turns on the A3, 3 turns on the A2, block debuff plus increased defense. It's actually gonna be solid for the Hydra as well. So I would consider it twice if you really want that arena hero compared to just getting Tatura and using this one for the future, because this one looks much better than Pixneal as an example. So this was the video, guys. Remember, this was the test server. It's not on my actual account. Where we get on the test server, we get access to all of these heroes. We don't keep them, they just go away after it. I mean, you can see I've got 1,000,000 gems, but they're gonna go away once they delete the test server for the newer one. So thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.